when I was really young, it was sort of, the voices became like my friends.
When people are hearing voices, the same parts of their brain light up as when they're actually having a social conversation with a real existing person.
It's really hard. Like sometimes there's like really random, they tell jokes.
Can you hear them now?
Yeah.
1 in 10 of us will, at some point, hear a voice talking to us when there's no one there. Psychotic episodes like this can be brought on by things like drugs, stress, depression, or trauma. So how do you manage when you're experiencing one?
What we want to work towards is people kind of coping with the experiences better. So if we can't stop voices, how can we have a relationship with them, which means that they're not kind of in charge of our emotions and our actions.
This week on Like Minds, we're getting advice on how you can cope. And just as importantly, what you should do if someone else is struggling.
You kind of snap her out of a thought pattern. So if someone's sitting here and you can see that the wheels are spinning, everything's kind of going, and you're just like, okay, cool, Sam, go get me a drink. She'd be like, you lazy guy. For me, like what I've noticed, it will snap her out of it.
How do you think about your mental health?
I always like relate it to like a flapping door.
Sammee is 23. She's been hearing voices and experiencing hallucinations since she was a child. Well, what is it to you?
It's just paranoid schizophrenia. That's how I see it. The door is like constantly like, literally constantly flapping, open and closing, and I'm still holding on.
We teased her throughout her childhood most of the time, and we watch wrestling.
Now it's time to introduce Shabs. He's one of Sammy's 2 older brothers.
She's about, what, 4? And then brother gets her up, does a back suplex on the bed.
I was 4.
I'm dying. You're not dying. She got ice cream, and we just got told off.
Wrestling aside, Shabs is one of the people who spots Sammy's signs and then tries to distract her.
How do you know that I'm going into like my time warp?
The eyes go glassy. So there's like, the lights are on, but no one's home. So she's there physically, but you can see everything spinning. Let's just interact. Let's go get food. Let's go to a movie.
Do you notice that he's doing it?
Sometimes now I do more. Now I think when he does certain things, like, oh yeah, he clocked it, he deeped it, like he got that I wasn't feeling myself, and he just kind of asked me to do something or whatever. I know you're doing it. I know you're doing it.
I thought I was trying to be discreet about it, because you don't want to be like,
but it's good.
Talk to me now. Because she'd be like, shut up, Shabs.
Many people hear voices, and some of you have been in touch to tell us how you cope.
I've just had a voice saying hello to me, so I would say something in the voices without speaking out loud but moving my lips. These are my techniques I've worked on through the years.
I know what helps me is people making me laugh. That really distracts me and puts my focus on something other than what the voices are saying.
I try to relax by gathering my thoughts and drink plenty of water, lay down, sit down, and just reassure myself that everything is going to be okay.
And everyone is different, and we'd really love to hear your tips on how you cope with hearing voices. So pop your comments below and we'll share them. Sammy's main coping mechanism is distraction. She uses things like her love of makeup and her super cute dog, Wilson.
Don't dig your paws in. I'm wearing leggings.
Sammee first began hearing voices and seeing things when she was about 7. They seemed friendly to start with, but in her teens, some of the voices became more aggressive. Then things got worse in her early 20s.
I had this overwhelming feeling and these voices like telling me to hurt myself and my family, like to basically kill my whole family. That's what the voices are telling me to do. So, but I was still kind of in this place where I knew that this could not be real. Like it might not be real, but it feels so real to me that I could do it. Like that they feel like they're around me and I could potentially hurt everybody in this house. 24 hours later, I was informally admitted to psychiatric ward. One of the practitioners there had told me that everything I was experiencing wasn't real and it's all a part of my imagination, and I just was like, what?
It can be tempting to say that the voices, no, it's not real, don't worry about it. But for the individual, it really does feel real.
Emma is a clinical psychologist who works with people who hear voices. She's also experienced them and hallucinations for most of her life. And she has a super cute cat called Stardust.
I've recently been re-diagnosed as having schizoaffective disorder, which is a kind of a mood-focused psychosis.
What's the impact of that for somebody if you kind of dismiss their experience and the voices they're hearing?
Well, if I said to you, what's your name? And you said India, and I said, no, it's not, that's not your name. It's kind of a bit like kind of going down that route, kind of just denying something that you think is just so understandable and so straightforward and so normal. So
it would make me feel very unsettled.
Yeah.
Not trusting of you.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of closes down conversation, makes people feel, well, I can't really talk to this person, they don't get me, they're not going to be able to kind of see things from my point of view.
That was the first time I'd ever opened up about specific voices or the friends I'd made in my mind along my way, and it was just a shock to my system.
Antipsychotic drugs can be prescribed to try and reduce and control some of the symptoms of psychosis, but they can't cure them. Currently, Sammee isn't taking any medication.
On one hand, it can be really great for you, but sometimes the side effects can be a bit too much for some people to bear. And it's weird, it's there to make your life better, but then also in other ways can hinder the quality of your life, I guess.
I started medication the day I went into hospital in '94, and I still take it now, as though a different one. I've been on 6 or 7 different medications over that period of time, all with varied and interesting side effects.
Emma loves baking. She uses it to cope. It relaxes her and takes her mind off whatever's going on inside her mind.
It was just at the periphery of my hearing, and it sounded like whispers, so I was kind of thinking, is it someone talking in the room next door? And I couldn't quite hear what they were saying.
The voices people hear can vary from funny and friendly to angry and aggressive. Everyone's experience and coping strategy is different.
What some people will do is kind of talk back to voices and kind of get engaged in conversations or arguments with them. Some people will try very hard to ignore them, or kind of put earphones on, or will kind of try and busy themselves doing something, or will talk to somebody.
But it's really important to say here that when people really can't cope, you should get medical help.
Your first port of call would be your GP, but if anybody around you or yourself starts to feel that there's some risk attached, or you're worried about yourself, then get to A&E to get some support in a crisis.
Whilst there can be causes for psychosis, the experts aren't certain why or how our brains create things like voices and hallucinations. A couple of months ago, Sammee had a particularly bad experience.
Like, there was an incident. I'm going to talk about this incident.
Let's talk about it.
Shabs missed a call from Sammee. Then he noticed she'd removed all her profile pictures from social media.
So on the way home, I'm like, there's something wrong, there's something wrong, there's something wrong. Lo and behold, she goes, I just wanted to go sleep. So I walked in. So I was like, and I acted most normalest person in the world. I was just like, I got you in this situation. You're never alone. You know for a fact I will be here, regardless of any situation that happens.
Oh. Yeah.
So here's what works for Sammee, Shabs and Emma.
Quite often people won't necessarily want any attention to be drawn to themselves. Quite often people do just want to be kind of get on with things themselves.
Maybe sometimes we just want a conversation that will take us away from the madness that's been conjuring in here.
You play an important role. Find the role that you play with that person and just work towards it. Just don't try to be their saviour.
Yeah, it's different because we've never really sat like this and had like this sort of conversation about things with so much emotion. It's nice to know that, do you know what I'm saying? When I don't want to live anymore, like he wants me to.
Shabs is clearly a huge support for Sammee, but they both know she can't just rely on him.
There's not going to be one click of the finger or one thing someone's going to say and it's all going to go away. It's all about how you can cope in the moment that you're going through.
I'd love to be able to take voices away from many people that I work with, but I think often giving people the confidence to lead their lives the way that they want to is a much more accomplished thing to be able to do. So it's often a journey. There's not necessarily somewhere you get to that's a place called cure.
Here at Like Minds, we believe in sharing. So if you've got any advice about hearing voices, please pop it in the comments below, and then we'll make a new film and share that. The more advice that's out there, the better.
I'm proud of you. You know I'm proud of you.
You're cool. You're all right. You're all right. You're cool.